We are recording, so whenever you are ready, Christiana.
Welcome to iconic members, and in this case as well, non-iconic members, to this very special Halloween broadcast of the monthly celestial forecast for the month of November. We're going to be looking into what the true meaning of Halloween is. We're going to look at it from a numerological point of view and an astrological point of view. Then we'll get into the month of November, a Scorpio month mostly. Lots of things happening, so I'm sure it's going to be a lively one. And we'll end the episode about the whole situation around P Diddy. So I'm here with the usual team: Laura Eisenhower, astrologer; George H. Lewis, astrologer; Zachariah Adil does Chinese astrology and tarot; and we have Suzanne Björkland, who is our numerologist. So guys, let's start about Halloween. It's in full flow at the moment, and most people associate it with typical Western stuff. But really the history of it is quite different. Coming from the name Samhain, a Celtic pagan ritual, a harvest festival, and the ushering in of the darker nights, the darker days into winter. It's a time where they say that the veil is thinner, which allows for easier communication with passed over loved ones and supernatural beings. It's also a time where they used to sacrifice their animals. And it can, of course, if the veil is thinner, can also be used for nefarious activities, to summon, negative spirits, etc. I'd love to know, Suzanne, maybe you can start from a numerological point of view, what you see around the theme and why that date.
Yeah, why that date? It's a very good date to actually summon things and to bring together. It's 31, and it is number 4, and it stands kind of for attraction, to attract pieces together. So if I combine the 31 date together with that it's Scorpio month, it becomes like, you can hear how it sounds, the summoning of something that is deeper, darker. Scorpio stands for our subconscious desires. So it's everything like in our nature, kind of summoning coming together. It seems very fitting for the theme around Halloween, I would say, almost like summoning things from the underground. But it also kind of gives us a bit of a thought, because at least here in Sweden, I can see Halloween is becoming way more popular for each year. A great deal of focus is on Halloween, and more and more people are decorating for Halloween. I can definitely feel Halloween vibes throughout October month, maybe more so even than Christmas. So something is definitely rising when it comes to Halloween. So yeah, very interesting date. Almost like I would say that I would hope that date would be used for something positive and uplifting, because it has a lot of potential. So I'm not so surprised that it's focused around that date.
Thank you for that, Suzanne. I always notice around this time of the year that my dream space is different, and I do tend to see passed over loved ones in dreams, and my dreams are much more vivid. So it does really feel like the veil is thinner. Zach, you said earlier before we started the broadcast that you had a little bit about Halloween as well.
Yeah, I mean, Scorpio is ruled by Hades, which is Lord of the Underworld. And so that tells you about the connection to the other realms, but also which realms. Lord of the Underworld is Hades, and otherwise known as Pluto in the Roman mythology. But see, when you understand that the skin between the two worlds is the thinnest here at Halloween time, on this day in particular, you realize that it can be used for positive and it can be used for negative. So as that otherworldly energy is amplified, we can utilize it for our own desires if we so choose to channel it in that way, if we know how to channel it in that way. But alternatively, these people that know about these energies, they can utilize it for their benefit. So when you look at Halloween and how it's dealt with in other countries, other cultures around the world, it's a time to honor your ancestors. Most people, most cultures have an innate knowing that this is the time where you pray or you reach out to the people who have passed, your ancestors, people who you loved and who are no longer here in physical form, but you can sense them around this time, and that's what tends to happen, regardless of which culture we're looking at. Excuse me. You'll see that there will be like an equivalent festival. Like today is actually Diwali, which doesn't entirely relate, but it's interesting that on Halloween is also Diwali is also happening this year, 2024, which is the Festival of Lights. Normally that relates more to Guy Fawkes. But you know, when it comes to China, for example, they have the Feast of the Hungry Ghosts, known as King Ming. And at this time, it's like the All Hallows Eve's time. You know, it's when they. It's exactly what I've already been saying. Basically, they'll reach out to their ancestors and they'll remember them. And I don't know if you guys have seen. I can't remember which Disney film it was, but there's a Disney film. It might be Encanto, but it's one of them. Whereas in Mexico, they have the Day of the Dead, which is this day, or sometimes they call it the Night of the Witches. Do you see how it's like positive or negative? You know, the Day of the Dead, people who are ancestors we can reach out to, or the Night of the Witches, depending on whether you innately have light energy or dark. But
Yeah, that
powerful day.
makes complete sense. Yeah, powerful day, and how apt that is. It is, like you both say, in Scorpio, because Scorpio is, of course, the underworld, and couldn't be a better place, a better time. So let's move into the month of November, the rest of it, because obviously Halloween is only one day, but November we're expecting a lot. I understand the planetary positions are also quite extreme. Laura, would you like to start on your vision on what you've seen for November?
Well, November starts off right after Halloween. We have a new moon in Scorpio, and it's stabilized by the energies of Saturn and Pisces. And the new moon is really like a seed planting day. It's, you know, when the sun and moon are conjunct, and it's very, very powerful in setting intent. So what's interesting about, you know, this time of year being, you know, Scorpio and the 31st, I see these aspects as unveiling the masks, right? Because the scorpionic energy in its lowest octave is the scorpion, then the phoenix, and then the golden eagle. And all these inversions that we see during this time of year, I feel is really to keep people kind of stuck in the astral, even though it can feel celebratory to people. It's really, to me, a removal of masks. So that continues for, you know, the whole month. And there's a strong emphasis in the beginning of the week with Mars trine Neptune. So as we move into this new moon tomorrow with the stabilizing energies of Saturn, whose ruler is Neptune being in Pisces, is really like anchoring the vision and dream, right? We're dealing with a very, very complicated trajectory of the human species when it comes down to what we receive from outside of us. And whatever avenue that is, whatever news channel, whatever belief system, you know, there's many different avenues of externalization of our creative energy, and how that gets infected with outer propaganda, false news, psyops, and scandals that are covering up deeper scandals. So it's very interesting because it's a time of purging. The Plutonic energy is all about purging, but how can we hold space for ourselves with this Mars opposite Pluto? Mars being in Cancer, Pluto spending its last run in Capricorn before it goes into Aquarius. Where can we really, you know, work on this Mars opposite Pluto? So with oppositions, it's very much like a teeter-totter. It can be very emotionally reactive with Mars and Pluto, and an unprocessed shadow side can bring out the worst, because the willpower and the power of Pluto, you know, they're two different power forces. Pluto's more the regenerative power of nature, but it's very, very powerful. So when it's working with Mars, sometimes that Plutonic energy has not really gone through the underworlds. It's trying to maintain control and actually act as that Hades energy instead of doing the clearing work to be the creative cauldron of creation, which is very much the mother womb that has been put in reversals with the planetary grids. So it's interesting to see this Mars opposite Pluto because it manifests in the charts of Stalin, but also Gandhi, right? So we can really bring the shadow to the light and do that work, which also involves finding our deeper inner treasures and our gifts and abilities and not squashing them or internalizing them, but also, where we're holding on to any kind of ego attachments, entity attachments that correspond with negative ego, and, do this massive clearing. So with this new moon and with many of the events that we're going to see this month, it's really going to be a clearing out of the creative imagination from anywhere that it's being siphoned and utilized to manifest a trajectory that we don't need to go down. So definitely tomorrow, find some space and time for yourself. The Neptune and Mercury also in harmony with Mars is going to really help to direct this energy. But if we're on autopilot, if we're unconscious to the need to really do this work, a lot can sneak in, and we don't need that. We don't want that, especially in this critical time with all that's ahead. And also, seeing the use of weather weapons. We're elemental. We need to harness our elementals, which is connected to our DNA, and it's upgrading, and it's the removal of the fences and the frequency modulations that have blocked us from our true expression of who we really truly are. So Mars not being compartmentalized anymore is going to really be a theme. And that is the energy of ascension, is not to compartmentalize this ego, have it in negative ego, whether that's insecure and hopeless and disempowered or arrogant and narcissistic. We need to find, that connecting point to our soul and spirit so that it generates this beautiful energy into the collective to dismantle the dark weapons.
I love how you always know how to put all the dots together when you speak about astrology. That's amazing. And what's interesting, I find, with Scorpio is that it can also be very brave if it wants to be. So what I'm almost hearing is like, this is the time where it's safe to surrender. So we need a bit of courage, but surrender into exploring that underworld instead of maintaining the control that's no longer serving us. Is that correct?
Right. Yes. And revisiting, the Capricorn energy is really going to be about, looking at our relationship with, power in terms of like, the inverted matrix or the birthing of the new higher Saturn, which isn't about the tyranny or the control or the harvesting or the binding us and enslaving us. It's the higher octave of self-mastery. So it's a major time of clearing. But of course, there's going to be psyops and events that like literally are looking to cut that off so that we feed something that's coming from outside. But we're seeing a major reveal, right? A lot of things, and we're talking about P Diddy, so I'll save it for that. But yeah,
okay. Yeah. So a good time to zoom out and not get caught up in false flag energy, being overly conspiratorial, just having a little zoom out moment, because if you're aware that they're going to try these agendas, then just don't buy into them. George, what's your vision on the month of November?
Well, I think what's very important is people have got to realize the co-op of Halloween in the last 30, 40 years or more. I mean, it's interesting that today we're celebrating it alongside Diwali, the celebration of light. I mean, I think part of the Hades mythic story of Pluto is actually going down into the depths and shining light on it. And with this out of sign T-square with Mars and Pluto, it's doing exactly that. We have to really reconfigure our understanding of Halloween and on this midpoint between the solstice and the equinox, and shine some light on it. I mean, we always seem to be celebrating in the popular vernacular, the popular storytelling, ideas of connecting with ancestors through almost skeletal, demonic, darker entities. What about the connection to the Pleiades or the Andromedans or the Syrians? What about the connection, to something which is more light-filled? And I think part of the Halloween story upgrade is for us to pierce through this thin veil, which is obviously extant at the moment, and actually find the light, find the beauty, find the Christed light in it. And it can be very colourful. It doesn't have to be dark. As Laura says so eloquently, the false Saturnian matrix keeping us in fear and separation. Saturn at its highest expression is architectural foundation from which creativity grows. And so for me, when at these times of year, Halloween, it's almost about a readjustment of our connection to Source Creator And as the veil is thinner, how do we connect to our higher self? How do we connect to our ancestors, which are positive, which are healing, which move us out of trauma? And with that powerful point, that angle, that specifically that opposition of Mars and Pluto is actually giving us the energy to do this. It's actually giving us the capability, the power to do it, especially as we've got the Sun and Moon in Scorpio, allowing us to go deep into the cosmos, into the psyche.
I recently cancelled my Netflix membership because whenever you see anything that's sort of supernatural on there, it's always oriented towards the negative agenda. And what a shame, really, because platforms like that, would draw in that many members. How amazing would it be to show productions that are doing exactly what you said, connecting with higher self, connecting with more benevolent species. So thank you very much for that.
Can I also
Suzanne,
just add one last? Sorry to interrupt. It's also important your listeners know this, but it's important for us to get this ball back over the net. And that is, Hollywood was largely funded by the Pentagon. And we're seeing this, whether it's, Pollock the artist in the 50s. These artists in the 20th century, these actors, these stories that were told to the public writ large had an agenda. And that information is just coming out to the people on our planet now. And that's part of our story. That's part of our awakening. It's actually rather beautiful that we're beginning to come into some consciousness once again as to our reality.
Aho to that. Thank you very much. Much needed at this time. Suzanne, numerologically, what's November got in store for us?
Yeah, what doesn't it has in store for us? This is a lot of things that's coming up to the surface. It is about activation, and as you already touched upon, I fully agree. It is about bringing up everything really that has been hidden and dark up to the surface. So we're gonna see two big themes during this November month. One is, of course, the dark agenda controlling the world. The witch covenant thing going on in Hollywood, maybe that will be revealed. A lot of this darkness is going to start pop up, and we're also going to feel like some kind of whatever soul connection we had to this darkness is also likely to come up to the surface. So either way, this month is a very good month to actually dig deeper into unprocessed feelings. And no, you're not supposed to ruminate about that. We're not gonna be fighting the bad guys or go full war on them. It is not about that. It's about energy that's been twisted. That's all this really is. All this evil is just something that has been on repetition again and again and again. It's time to break that chain. And you don't fight the chain, you just stop perverting the energy. So this is about a deep cleansing in you, it's activation. Go deeper now into these own unprocessed feelings. Try to access any kind of feeling that is disturbing to you now, and don't try to dissociate. Sometimes when we try to get in contact with our feelings, we are still dissociating. We try to use our head, and then we say, oh, I know what this means. And then we're already off trying to interpret it because we don't want to stay with the feeling. So please now stay with these feelings. Let the images appear from this feeling and start to cleanse it. Because now we're going to one dimension deeper. It's time now. We're not going to be operating on these shallow structures anymore. We're going deeper and we are emerging from within. So use this month as an activation month for yourself.
Yeah, that's a very good point. The shallow structure, which is constantly focused on keeping the duality alive, keeping the conflict, the external conflicts going, and our focus upon them. And yes, it is a beautiful time of the year to go inwards and face this process. So thank you so much, Suzanne. Zach, what's your Chinese point of view and your tarot point of view?
Well, I had a structure of how I was going to do it, but because of what Suzanne just said there, I think I'm going to start in a different place. Because what the cards that I've pulled for what we should be doing this month and how we handle what's going to be in front of us is that we need to focus on pulling our energy back from those people, those energies that cause us harm. Just we don't have to do anything. We don't have to fight them. We just pull our energy away from them. and then we focus on building our strength. So if those people have been ill or sick, it will be a good time to accumulate their energy again and rejuvenate themselves. And the main way that they're going to do that is by pulling their focus away and their energy away from those things that no longer serve them. Now, looking at the actual month itself, from a Chinese astrology perspective, when you have dragon fire mixed with Scorpio water, it's like a dispersal of energy, and everything goes everywhere. So you find that people who are dragon and Scorpio are they can be very disciplined when they can channel that energy, right? But generally speaking, it's like an explosion of fire and water, boom. And they normally, there's lots of chaotic personalities with this chart. Unless they have the ability to discipline themselves. If their time of birth is like a sign like the snake or the boar signs that have a bit more discipline there, then they can channel that. But if they don't, it's just an explosion. And if you look at that, if you think of that in terms of energy for until we change to Sagittarius, you'll see that it's hard to be focused at a time like that. So now looking at the cards, we've got this card of like being unhappy with the situation, but there's some things that have gone wrong here. So you can see that the water spilled, but there's two cards that are still standing behind you. If you choose to turn around to look at them and see what's working, and then it gives you a bit more sense of control over what's happening. Now the next two cards that I pulled are really interesting because look, we've got the Hierophant card and we've got the World card. So now the Hierophant card symbolizing the establishment and the things that they're doing. Now imagine that after this card here, you can see in the UK we've just had the budget. So if you imagine that the budget, that like people are not happy with the budget, and the Hierophant card symbolizing the establishment, feeling like they got a stronghold. It looks that way, but it is not that way. The World card is one of the best cards in the pack. It's the card of the divine. So everything is happening exactly as it should be. Even those people out there who are struggling, who are thinking, "Oh, all my plans have gone out, out of the fallen apart because of these changes that they've made in terms of the budget and whatever." Let's just stay on the train and see what happens. Because since October, since this month, talking about this month, doesn't it feel like it's like been a really fast year? But this month has gone on forever. Very, very interesting. This month we've gone through the doorway now, and there's no going back, and that's what we're seeing. The establishment continue to reveal themselves more and more and more, and in doing so, they're giving the people, the masses, more to grab hold of to confront them with. So it's a very, very interesting time. It looks like they've got more control. They haven't. They're giving it to us.
It's almost like they're like, "Ooh, we've got the last laugh," and it's being smug about the whole budget thing and everything. Yeah. And they don't understand that when the people come together from the point of views that we've just discussed, the system cannot maintain. I would almost go so far as to say everyone stop paying your taxes because, that's the only way to stop the whole thing. But I might have to be careful.
We're not suggesting that, of course.
Not actually saying no. Exactly. So moving on, P Diddy, he was indicted on charges of sex trafficking and racketeering. He's got a court date set for May 2025. He's pleaded not guilty and he's currently being held without bail. Now, are we dealing here with somebody who is being thrown under the bus, or are we truly dealing with someone who's committed these nefarious activities? Laura, do you want to start on this one?
Sure. Well, it's very interesting looking at his charts. He's got a really powerful stellium of planets and a strong connection with his south node. So a stellium means that there's a number of planets that are next to each other. And it's interesting because there's actually a square aspect with the transiting Pluto. And that square actually hits that stellium of planets. And I'll tell you what that is. But also, it's interesting to see his progress chart because it shows almost like a trauma or like a fall from grace, just an event that like is seriously harming his reputation. So, okay, let me just go into that stellium though. The stellium is in the sign of Scorpio into Libra. So the Venus-Jupiter conjunction is a very like benevolent, positive energy in Libra. It has to do with connections and others. And then Sun, Mercury, Scorpio. So his birthday is actually coming up, as we know. And so the square with his natal Mars, with that stellium, with the Pluto transiting it, is like this, kind of fall. And with planets near the midheaven, this would be something visible. So the question is he what we're hearing? I think this is so multi-layered. What's interesting is his North Node is in Pisces in the second house, and Chiron's also here. So the aspects and the progression show this is taking a huge toll on his worth and what he makes. But there's this North Node in Pisces with Mars progressed that's almost saying that he's got friends in high places, not high places, but there is something that might like help mitigate the punishment. And it could be everything from him hiding out to getting false stories about what's actually going on with him, or that like something just helps him get off the hook. But the damage to his reputation is definitely something that really can't be reversed. This is something that's going to play out for a while. How it's mitigated, how he continues to live his life is another thing. Now, there are victims, there are people coming forward. Jaguar Wright is a very important person to listen to. And it's not just him. There's just like, the Epstein, there's lists, right? So the amount of accountability to those that were involved, the blackmail, the filming, is so multi-layered and has a lot to do with, the agreements or the selling of the soul, metaphorically speaking, and literally in that industry. So it shows, a lot of talent and a lot of benevolence, but his ego got hooked in and the ramifications are showing up. So I do think, there's definite like involvement, grooming, and that's just speculation. This is just kind of what I'm sensing. So I'm not, saying anything for certain, but with the North Node and just, the positions that are getting some transits like from Saturn. Saturn is soon going to be over his North Node. There's something that it might be a plea deal or something that stabilizes, where this is leading. Now that could be probably in May. So 2025, it's going to be a little bit past that and closer to the Chiron. So with a possible leniency comes a major cost. I mean, you can't change the reputation and the viralness of this story. So that damage is definitely done, but I see mitigation in some of the other things that will unfold connected to being safe and maybe a news story saying that he might have even offed himself. So who knows? It's just there's going to be smoke and mirrors, but something that's favorable to him, but not his reputation.
Wow. Thank you so much, Laura. Okay. George.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting one. I mean, we are dealing with not only smoke and mirrors, the art of war. We have to think of Sun Tzu in this whole great awakening of ours on our planet, because what we see is not what we get. I mean, I think when you look at P Diddy's chart, what's very interesting, yes, he has this stellium of planets in Scorpio, but I'm very fascinated by this Venus-Jupiter conjunction up on the midheaven. So he's much loved by the public, but it makes a square with Mars. Laura's already highlighted that, but I want to explore a little bit more of what Pluto's doing. Pluto is directly over that Mars, and he started going over Mars when everything broke a few months ago. And one could argue that this stuff has been in the pipeline for, a year or so. I mean, who knows with all these things? But it's a sense of suddenly now, and when I say suddenly with Pluto, we're over a number of months, we'll really have this barrage of disclosure. And I mean, there was something that I saw on Telegram and on Instagram yesterday, which had just under 5 million views. This isn't peripheral anymore. The connection between Nickelodeon and Epstein Island. Nickelodeon is the children's television thing, and the Epstein Temple is the same as the Disney logo. The same colors. and this whole cartoon of Unwish Island. You see the changing room lockers of both P Diddy alongside Disney in this cartoon. It reminds me of Q. Symbolism will be their downfall. You know, in the Pinocchio, you see Pinocchio sucking on some strange, I don't know, phallic instrument which looks like some weird cigar, and then the old man whispers to him, "I'm going to bring stupid little boys to Pleasure Island." I mean, this is the whole awakening of it. You know, yes, this could be pure conjecture. This could be absolute just pie in the sky. But methinks not. Methinks not. If we're really honest with ourselves, rather than in the Saturnian fear, what's going to happen? Once we get over it, let's be Plutonic about it. Let's be Scorpionic about it. And I speak to my fellow countrymen, the Brits, more about this, because it's a Saturn-ruled country, is once we get over the fear, once we conquer the illusion that is death, it's game over for the Saturnian third dimensional matrix. And that's planetary ascension writ large. And so that's really what it's about when you quote Pam Gregory at the eagle's perch. And of course, the eagle is the middle ground, in my mind, of the Scorpio archetype. The bottom is the scorpion. And of course, we tend to live too much as a collective hitherto in that scorpionic field of devils and demons and all that. And we don't get up to that Christed light, which so often, not exclusively, is associated with Andromedans and Palladians and many other non-terrestrial civilizations. But the journey here is to move through the low-dimensional fear vibration. And so these P. Diddy's examples, they're just teachings to us for us to awaken into our sovereignty and to claim our divine inheritance.
Wow. Well spoken, George. That's amazing. Suzanne.
Yes, this is interesting. I mean, what I see here, he has very practical numbers, and with practical numbers I mean sort of like a businessman. This is the kind of person who can build his own imperium, and he likes the comfort that wealth gives him. So he's also very, in a certain sense, street smart. I think he can take care of himself, and it's what I feel is a bit sad when I look at his numbers and I feel the energy vibe of him is that I've seen he's taken these numbers and he's really like decreased them to a very low energy level. It's all about materialistic stuff now. It could have been higher. No numbers are like materialistic in themselves. Number 4 is a builder. You can be a very high creative person. The 3 number is about thriving, being creative, even being an artist. But he's really lowered them. This is like the lowest degree I've seen in a long time. And if you lower the energy vibe of the numbers and you are going to perform in this state of the numbers, then I see someone who could be interested in kind of perverted stuff. It would be like almost like Freud, like going into like the darker psyche of people and indulge in that, indulge in comfort, indulge in all of these areas. So I get the kind of vibe that amidst all of this, it's like he's a bit in denial. It's like, I don't care, everyone is doing the same, why is this happening to me? It's not a big deal. It's like he has like lowered his, I don't know, spirit level so much. So he's kind of, I don't care about me anymore. I don't care what happens anymore. It's kind of sad what I'm seeing. It's really like, I don't know, rotten in a certain sense. It could be that he has some compromising material on some famous people, so they will leave him alone, not go all the way, so to speak. I get a sense that he might have that. And yeah, so do I think it taken perhaps a bit of pleasure in things that he's accused of? Yeah, could be. The numbers, yeah, definitely. So I think he can protect himself, though, in what's happening to him. So, yeah.
Okay.
Not surprised.
Okay, thank you very much. Not surprised, yeah. Do you feel there's an element of him being scapegoated?
I mean, everyone knows what's going on there, so nothing is a coincidence. But in comparison to the other people that we did an analysis on, I don't see that he is equally brainwashed. It's almost like he's in on it. He's okay with it. It gets him comfortableness and pleasure. So it's not the same
Interesting.
as an innocent victim would be framed. Let's leave it like that.
Right, gotcha. Very clear. Okay, thank you so much. Zach.
Well, he's come from a family that's been involved in this sort of stuff and was mentored by Clive Davis. So he's learned it as he's grown up, and his mum was also a bit of a tyrant and a bit of a tough. Was it his mum or his grandmother? I can't remember, but one of his matriarchs was really dominant, yeah, there is so much that I want to say about this. First, I asked who is he? What is he really about? And what's happening to him? The cards have told me that 50% of what he is being accused of, he has done, and 50% as stuff is done by other people that is he's also going to take the crap for. So that's the first thing that I see. He is in a state of, I think Suzanne said it as well, he's in a state of delusion. He seems to think that he tried to get out before, he couldn't get out, and he was okay with it. But now he's in a state where he thinks he can get out of this, and he can't. He is deluding himself by thinking that there's because his sense of himself is so big, he almost perceives himself as almost like a godlike figure. So he thinks he can get out of this still. Part of him knows that he can't, but he's still struggling with that. I asked the cards, why is he doing what he did? And the card that I got is this card here: hurt people. So, and I said, is that an excuse? He thinks it's an excuse, but it's not an excuse. Did he know what he was doing? Yes, we got the Prince of Wands, Knight of Wands. He knew exactly what he was doing when he was doing it. And then I asked the cards, like, how should the masses perceive him? And I mean, the cards are the cards, and they just said with as much maturity as possible. This is the mature, emotionally wise king, and it's with as much compassion as possible, without losing a sense of but we still have to hold him accountable for his behavior. So that's the cards. With the astrology now, there's a few things that I want to talk about, because in terms of his chart, you see, I can't go too far with this because I don't have his time of birth. Roosters are the accountants anyway. They're all about not all roosters are like this, but a lot of roosters are about the money. And it's an interesting time for the roosters, because let's look at who is being accused right now. So P Diddy, Jay-Z. So P Diddy, Rooster Scorpio. Jay-Z, Rooster with Sagittarius. Beyonce, double Rooster Virgo. Let's look at Liam Payne, who just passed away, double Virgo, right? There's a lot of roosters who are kind of on the line at the moment. Now, what's really interesting is I didn't know that his case was going to be in May next year. So May next year is going to be Snake Taurus time, double Earth again, right? Because Rooster's Earth as well. So what's interesting about that is Laura mentioned Jaguar Wright. Now, Jaguar Wright has been speaking out about Diddy for years. I've lifted some of her videos and put it on my Rumble channel. I've been putting them on there for years because I know that she's speaking the truth on this. Now, take a wild guess what her signs are. She's double snake. She's a snake with Taurus. Who does she talk about? What's interesting is she's always talking about Kanye West, how he's speaking out as well about what's happening. He is snake Taurus, double snake, right? And then she talks about Chris Brown and how Chris Brown was used and abused by those people. Also, snake Taurus, different generations, but still same sign, right? So now what's interesting about that is his court date is going to be in snake Taurus time. Bear in mind, that is one segment of time every 12 years, like 1 month. So isn't it interesting that the signs that have been exposing him is the time that they have chosen for him to have his court date? That is no accident. That is no accident. There's no way that's an accident, because the only people speaking out about him were Jaguar Wright and Kanye West, and they're both snake Taurus. And what are the chances of that?
And it doesn't even mean that it has to be done on purpose. It could just mean that that's how energy works, that, they're drawn to that date because of those settings.
But let's not forget, the snake Taurus is a really interesting chart because it's also what Tony Blair is. These people, it's one of the most, it's not one of the pure dictator charts. like we have with Ox Taurus, but it is one of those really, really dominant charts. All of the double earth ones are. And this is another one of them. But you see, Jaguar Wright has put herself on the line because they killed her son. They demanded a sacrifice from her. She refused. So then they demanded a sacrifice from him. He refused because the sacrifice from him would have been her. And then they killed him. So that's why she's so vehement in her opinions and speaking out, because she doesn't care anymore. She's going to expose these people because of what they did to her. So, yeah, I do recommend checking out her stuff. It's very interesting.
Thank you so much. Thanks all four for giving insights on Diddy, on Halloween, and what we can expect in the month of November. Everyone who's been watching, you're hopefully now well prepared to face the month of November. And I hope to see you for the next show. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you, team, for this month's episode.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.